Well, this last Friday, adding yet another log to the burning pyre of collective right-wing rage scream against ethnic diversity, that charred, fizzled pile of discount 4th of July fireworks, Dana Loesch, decided to take up Thomas the Tank Engine, of all things, on her NRATV program, Relentless. That's the name of her show, not a commentary on her never-ending pursuit of public notoriety. Let that sink in for a moment. A spokesperson for the National Rifle Association is outraged at diversity programming on a children's show. If you're confused as hell as to why the laughably self-described oldest and largest civil rights organization in the United States, what they're doing here, don't worry, you're not alone. Well, the context of this new round of bellyaching comes from the introduction of a new talking train character to the show, Thomas and Friends. You see, Nia is a new female talking train from Kenya. Outrageous, right? Brace yourselves. Take a look.
So we saved the best for last, and I mean by best, it's worse because everything is awful all of the time. This is horrible. This is Thomas the Tank, right? The long-running kids show about really weird anthropomorphic trains. Can they be if they're trains, though, or is that just animals? Anyway, they answer to this authoritarian maniac named Sir Topham Hatt, right? My youngest loved this show. I can't stand this show. It's creepy. Anyway, they've decided that the next stop is Virtue Town. Thomas the Tank is now bringing gender balance to the show by adding girl trains. Seriously, one of those trains, Nia, will be from Kenya to add ethnic diversity to the show. And which that, by the way, that's where it gets really strange to me because I've looked at Thomas and Friends at their pictures and I see gray and blue. Am I to understand this entire time that Thomas and his trains were white? Because they all have gray faces. How do you bring ethnic diversity? I mean, they had to paint what I guess they thought was some sort of African pattern on the side of Nia's engine. I mean, how do you bring ethnic diversity to a show that literally has no ethnicities? Because they're trains. They don't even have skin pigmentation. Was there some concern that the show had racist undertones? Because, I mean, Sir Topham Hatt clearly is white, but the trains? I mean, I'm looking at this picture, and I'm really, really struggling to understand how in the world there isn't any diversity in any of this. Oh, was it because, I see it, it was the white hoods and the burning train tracks. Okay, fine, fair point, fair, I get it. Thomas the Tank Engine has been a blight on race relations for far too long. Clearly, this is overdue, right? Seriously, with trains? With trains. Were they white? Seriously, I mean, I know that those had hoods on them, but were they, because all their faces were gray? I didn't know.
Ugh. Let me tell you, what Dana Loesch doesn't know could fill volumes. So, a key phrase she mentioned to understand all of this nonsense, quote, was there some concern that the show had racist undertones, unquote. Accompanied with that miserable, thoroughly unfunny KKK hoods on trains and tracks on fire attempt at humor, Loesch shows us exactly where her moral and mental confusion lie. You see, regressive white nutters like Dana believe that any attempts to include racial, ethnic, and gender diversity, they think it's an attack on them or an accusation of racism. The understanding that people, especially children, identify with and are comforted by fictional characters who share qualities with them is somehow an attack on white people. That it is seen as worthwhile to make efforts to be more inclusive of all people in this diverse world, and not simply cater to the white, ethnic majority, amounts to social justice warriors now ruining childhood, as she and her odious producers put it in the Chiron. Hey Dana, dispense with your precious pearl-clutching white sensibilities. Nobody is attacking you, nor are they attacking the show's history, nor are they attacking white people in general, nor are they destroying anybody's childhood. Diversity, again, is a good thing, and efforts to increase diversity is not always a backlash against racism, but simply a recognition that more inclusion is beneficial for children. That difference is not the same as scary. And just in case you found any of her nonsensical "they're blue and gray, genderless, raceless trains" argument persuasive, let's just briefly examine the history of this children's show, the British television series Thomas the Tank Engine and Friends. It began airing in 1984 and has produced seasons nearly every year since, with permutations of the same program appearing in other parts of the world. For the UK and US versions of the show, it's in its 22nd season. The only individuals in that time that have ever voiced Thomas, the title character, were, guess what? They were white. White men. And that whiteness holds true for the rest of the voice cast, until the first non-white individual to lend his talents to the character came when Hiro, voiced by Japanese actor Togo Igawa, joined the cast in 2010. Aside from Mr. Igawa, it wasn't until 2018 that other diverse actors began to join the cast. So with a single solitary exception, and until this year, every single human character appearing in the show has been white. Every single actor narrating the show has been white. And the show takes place on a fictional island in the British Isles, which is demographically overwhelmingly white. Given all of this context, is there any surprise whatsoever that children would perceive these anthropomorphized trains as also being white? Of course not. It's a natural, predictable inference, and any smart television producer in 2018 would recognize that a children's show going into the future would better serve the children and incidentally become far more commercially successful by having diverse representation in the program. Because as much as this simple fact grates on Dana, who yearns to be the conductor of the backwards-facing Trumpist train to Regressionville, we are a diverse, integrated world. So cram it, Dana, because in your frenzied, irrational reaction to these efforts to introduce diversity, you have once again revealed yourself as a malignant racist. Normal, rational people do not have these toxic responses to progress or to casting decisions on a kids show. Normal people don't twist themselves into pretzels to pretend like they don't see color even when it comes to anthropomorphized trains. What you're doing isn't normal. And by the way, if you want to keep up with this tired narrative that the NRA is a civil rights group and not simply a newly profitable propaganda wing for the Republican Party, stick to your guns. And I mean that literally, not figuratively, because clearly you don't know much about anything else.